You are listening to Be Amplified, the podcast with Bree and Thais, episode 40.
Hey Amplifiers, welcome to Be Amplified, the podcast. My name is Thais.
And I'm Bree Seeley. We are the co-founders of the Amplify Collective,
A movement aimed at radically disrupting how purpose-driven women connect and operate in the world.
because we believe it's not just what you do, but who you are that matters.
Each week, join us for messages and interviews that will leave you feeling amplified and ready to change the world.
Let's do this.
Welcome to Be Amplified, the podcast.
Hello!
Yet another epic episode.
Thais Sky here.
And Bree.
Bree Seeley with 3 E's. A lot of E's in your last name. Wow.
Yeah, it gets spelled wrong a lot.
Yeah,
Remember that Inc. magazine feature and they spelled my name wrong?
Did they fix it?
I messaged him and he hasn't responded yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully that gets fixed. We were featured
so.
on Inc. It was very exciting. It was a nice surprise.
Yes.
You're hitting all the things.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Chaos.
My goodness.
Complete chaos.
My patience level with the Bree Seeley. Look at a 1. Just kidding. Okay, so we're here. It's Monday morning for you, not for us, but for you it is. And that's what matters. You matter. Before we begin, I would like to read a lovely review that we've received. We like to read our reviews on air because we love receiving reviews. So
Yes.
if you read this, or if you are listening and you love what we're doing, then fucking leave us a review. I'm just kidding. I love you. You don't have to leave a review.
But if you want to.
But if you want to, we would really appreciate that. So here is a review from Team Reina. The Real is the header. A genuine and unwavering message that you can live out your own personal best with lots of discussion on practical application and the bumps between those good days. A no BS outlook on owning it and flourishing wherever you are on your journey. Thank you.
I love that. That was actually a good one to read because we're kind of going to talk about the bumps today.
We are going to be talking about, we always talk about a bump. Anyway, this particular episode is about the entrepreneurial bumps.
Yeah, the bumps.
The bumps. We know that many of you that are listening are entrepreneurs, or you want to be entrepreneurs. You're thinking about going in business for yourself, or
Otherwise known as wantrepreneurs. You're welcome.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the realities of entrepreneurialism because we get these questions a lot. And then we have Jessica Nazarali come on.
One of our favorite ladies.
Yes, with her Australian accent. Jess comes to us from Australia. She is a savvy entrepreneur. She's built a multi-6-figure brand, doing amazing things, all the things. So you get to hear about her in, I don't know, like 25 minutes. Ish.
We'll see how long we talk.
But before we do that, a couple reminders. One, we have an event coming up at the end of the month. You are invited to join us.
We will be in downtown Los Angeles at Industrious, doing our usual mixers. Lots and lots of beautiful ladies unnetworking the night away with champagne in their hands and treats and all of the things. So
when is it?
End of April. So go to theamplifycollective.com, click on events, and you will be transported to Eventbrite, where you'll be allowed to purchase a ticket to join us.
Amazing. And last but not least, applications are still open for the Amplified Woman. Final call. Yeah. We close our doors April 7th, which is this Friday. So if you have an inkling of curiosity around what the incubator could do for you in your life and in your business, we invite you to check out the amplifycollective.com/incubator. Fill out an application. We'll get on the phone with you because we're kind of selective of the type of women that we are inviting in to join this 6-month journey because it's 6 fucking months. And
there's only 20 women. So there's a lot of engagement and interaction with us.
Yes. And we want to be able to infuse our love into your life. Yeah. And we don't want you to just be another number. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go to our website. All the things are there. Now.
Yes. So now today we are going to talk about one of the lesser exciting parts of entrepreneurialism, and that is the roller coaster. The ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the pin curves, all of the things.
The upside down moments where you're like, fuck, I don't even know what I'm fucking doing anymore.
Yep.
Yeah,
all of those
happen. Where do we begin with this conversation?
I mean, I don't even know if it's like a Pandora's box, I feel like.
Okay, well, open it up. Start us off. Where are we going, Bracili?
So, first off, the thing that I would like to note is that this is not normal. Like, it's not required to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to face this roller coaster every single day. And I also want to touch on the fact that this pattern becomes an addiction. So
all patterns are addictions.
Well, but I feel like this one's extreme. Like, of course, we have patterns that we feel, play out, but I feel like the entrepreneurial one's extreme, and we face it like all day, every day, this addiction.
What are you talking about?
Well, because our brains get addicted to this idea of the highs and then the lows, and then it just creates this vicious cycle. And
I know, but what specifically do we get addicted to? Like, what are you talking about?
Our brain
I know
chemicals
I know,
get addicted
I understand, but
to the releasing the highs and the lows. Like, we get addicted to the wins.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then once we hit a win, we always assume there's going to be a crash afterwards, and then we hit the lows, and then when we're in the lows, then we're trying to find all the drugs in our brain to get back up to the highs, and like it's just this constant, perpetual state of chaos. Maybe that's why I started the episode with chaos this morning.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just instinctively, like, knowing that this was coming.
Maybe. Okay, well, let's pick apart what Brie has shared. So when we're talking about the highs and the lows of entrepreneurialism, right, we're talking about when you get a lot of great successes, you get recognized on some cool magazine, or you get invited to speak in a cool podcast, right? Those are the highs. You get, a lot of people interested in your work. You are getting a lot of money. Those are the highs. And then we have the lows, where there's weeks where you don't hear anything, You
don't have a single inquiry. You don't get a single response.
Money isn't coming in. Yeah. You have a flopped launch. Things aren't moving. You get lost in your lack of clarity around your business. So that's the lows that she's referring to. And, there is a way that you can have the highs and the lows without being in the roller coaster. So
yes.
Let's separate that too. You can have loss and fails and things not working. You can have the amazing things working, but not necessarily be riding the roller coaster, which really the roller coaster is taking things personal. That's really what the roller coaster structure is built out of. You take things personal. So when the highs are happening, it's happening for you, and you're amazing, and you're an amazing person. But when it's low, it's happening to you, and you're bad. And life sucks and circumstances suck.
Let's be real for a minute. I mean, this is a really easy trap to fall into, especially when you are your business.
Yes.
I mean, as you all know, like, my business is Bracili. Thais' business is Thais Sky. So yes, while it is her, it's also still a business. While it is me, it is also still a business. And seeing things from the perspective of it being your business instead of you helps you to not take things so personally, like Thais was just saying.
Well, when you call your business your baby, which I've done, but you do it from the energy of it really being a baby, it's very easy to take things personal because it's you. It's a part of you. It's an identity. It's very easy to then, if somebody says no to you, or a client cancels on you, or like you get stood up, for you to feel like that's a personal affront. It must mean that you're not a good person. And then when clients do want to work with you, it's very easy for you to attach yourself to this idea that you're a great person and you're, a great coach. The thing that I'm seeing again and again and again is that one literally has nothing to do with the other. You can be an amazing person and like just be a really sucky entrepreneur. You can be the most thoughtful, amazing person, but not necessarily be giving impact and transformation to your clients. I mean, there's just so many things, but one doesn't necessarily equate the other. And so it's really important that we start to detach who we are from our business. And that was so liberating for me when I was able to have my own life that I don't share and I don't even talk about in my business. And it feels like me. And I really honor and hold with sanctity these parts of my life that I don't really share in my business. Like, you won't normally and usually find things about like the specific details about my morning practice on social media, because what I do in my morning practice is mine and mine alone, and I don't feel the need to give a diary entry, right, of my morning practice. While some people do, and that's totally great and fine with them. That's just one way that I found a boundary to set, that this is me versus this is my business and my business entity.
So I want to touch a little bit more on this low state, this like I failed, blah, blah, blah state, because the one thing that I have found decent success with is that when I'm in this place of low, is like Tice was saying, not taking it personally and not assuming that because this bad thing happened, now my trajectory or my path is somehow hindered or changing, or that, you know, I've seen it happen before where like one thing happens where like, oh, I didn't book this thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, and I'm not a good person and I'm a terrible business owner, and like it spirals and people end up staying in that low longer than is necessary because they just get so caught up in this idea of failure. And even if you don't want to be in the failure, you perpetuate it with the thoughts of how things aren't working.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about failure before and the dark night of the soul and rejection and how to move through all that. And, it requires you giving yourself a lot of space to feel the low, to feel the rejection if you are taking it things personal. I mean, judging yourself for then taking things personal isn't the answer. And when you're first starting out in your business, it's easy to take things personal, and you have to give yourself permission to be with where you are and to honor that limitation. But soon what I found is that the more that you are just in this business and the more that you honor the journey, and you honor the fact that you're on the roller coaster and that you're in that low and that you took things personal, the easier it is for you to navigate it the next time around. I mean, I remember this is a couple years ago. I signed on a new client, and I was so freaking excited to work with her, and she gave me a $500 deposit, and we were going to start working the next month. And we felt like a really good fit and everything felt really good. And then the next month I reached out to her to start up working together, and I didn't hear from her. And then the next month I didn't hear from her, and then it became 2 months, 3 months, and I don't remember how long. I think it was like 6 months that I didn't hear from her. And then when I did hear from her, she was like, I want my $500 back. I don't want to work with you. And when I got that email, I just felt so hurt and felt like, so like, what the fuck, like I was really looking forward to working with you. And now out of the blue, you don't want to work with me, but you never even gave me a conversation to why. And I just felt, it just felt all the feels. And I took it really personal, and it was very hard to navigate that relationship because I was so taking things personal. And here's the thing: when you take things personal, when you're making it be about you, you then can't be a good coach, and you can't support the other person through their process, because it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with the money. It has something to do with them. And if you're taking it personal, you're making it be about you, you can't make it be about them. So first, I had to give myself distance from that situation. I had to make it be about me because I was already making it be about me, giving myself permission to be in that process. I reached out for support from my boyfriend, from Bree. I did a lot of meditation. I gave myself some time. I didn't respond to her right away because I needed time to make it personal and then not make it personal, right? And so then when I was able to reach out to her, I emailed her and I said, let's get on the phone. I don't like to do this via email. I got on the phone with her. I was able to support her as a coach and what was going on with her. She was experiencing some fear, like something's changed in her life. We were able to create an agreement of what we wanted to do moving forward. And I was able to support her in a really big way. And she's forever grateful that I didn't fall into her fear, which I would have had I continued to take things personal. You hear that? So it's that low sucks. It really, really sucks. But now I know what to do if that happens to me again. I know now that this is the process. This is what's going on in their psyche. And this is what I have to do to be able to support them through it. And so the more that you just be in the entrepreneur space, the more you're going to recognize and not fall into the roller coaster so much. And there are some things, like allowing yourself to take it personal and then move forward from it, so that you can really show up in your business in a powerful way.
One of the things that's really helped me is remembering that just because it doesn't look the way that I wanted it to look doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Mm.
This just happened to me actually like last month. I did a launch, and when I do this launch, I usually will get, you know, 50 text messages like immediately upon doing this launch. And I got off the launch and I had 5. And I went into massive fail mode.
Mm.
And I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't what it's supposed to look like. I did it wrong. Like all the stories. And I had to pause. I had to hit pause. Luckily, I, have done practices enough to know when I'm spiraling. Hit pause, immediately dropped into meditation and started really falling back on that idea of just because it doesn't look like I am trying to force it to look doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. And over the course of, I gave myself some more space. Instead of doing a week of enrollment, I did 2. And I ended up enrolling the same amount of women I would have enrolled otherwise. It just looked a little different. And so that's been a really powerful tool to help me. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't the easiest. That day I was was in meditation almost all day that day. The following day, I went up to Griffith Park and I hiked for 2 hours because I just had to get out. I couldn't be, in my space. And so yeah, that's one thing, one belief or one understanding that I have that I try to lean back on a lot.
Yeah, and it's also the power of feedback. When something's not working, when you hit a low, when that client came back to me after 6 months, and these are all opportunities for us to receive feedback about what we did that needs to be tweaked or changed. And when we don't take things personal, we're more open to that feedback. We're more open to being like, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can I learn from this, and how can I move forward? But when we're so devastated and we take it so personal, and it's it doesn't look the way we're supposed, we want it to look, it's very easy for us to then relegate the whole experience as, self-hate, and then completely shut down. And so again, you got to do whatever coming up for you, you got to honor it and look at it and see what's going on. And, once you're giving yourself enough space from it, see if you can set up systems so that you can look at this as an opportunity of feedback, as an opportunity for you to learn and see what's coming up for you. When I have had experiences where it wasn't working, and no one was buying and nothing was working, it's initially fell into, wow, I must be bad and wrong. But then it felt so good for me to hear from other people that they've also had those exact same things happen to them. That entrepreneurialism isn't this success road that people get bankrupt, people don't make money. It happens all the fucking time. They just don't talk about it. And the more I talked about failure and how things don't work out to other people and realized I wasn't alone, the less I took it personal. And then I used it as feedback, as, okay, so what didn't work? Why didn't it work? And what can I do to make sure that it happens differently next time around?
So Thais, when you're getting perspective on these things, what kind of, I know obviously like we have a relationship, but what about a community aspect? Do you lean on other women to support you in getting through these things?
Of course. When I have moments where I feel so let down, I immediately reach out to my sisters, immediately reach out to my community of women that I know are going to be able to support me. And of course, and my boyfriend, because he has the capacity of supporting me. Not everyone's partner has that capacity because they don't know what entrepreneurialism is like.
But Mark's like a unicorn.
Yes. He is gonna love being called a unicorn.
Yeah.
He's like 6'3", 200 pounds. He will love being called a fucking unicorn.
He's a unicorn in the idea that he's rare and unique.
Yes.
Not
he's more like a
dainty
bear. He's more like a grizzly bear.
Yeah, but grizzly bears are average and normal.
That's true.
He's not a grizzly bear.
He's
He's
unicorn
like a unicorn
bear.
Spirit with a grizzly bear body.
Oh my god, perfect. That's just perfect. But it's so important to not lean on yourself, to not be alone, to not isolate yourself.
Oh my god, those days where you're just like sitting on your couch alone, telling yourself all the shitty stories.
Yeah.
Oh, so many of those.
Yeah. So, look to see where you can create a community around you. Maybe it's the women in the Amplified Woman. Maybe it's, your own community. But, by creating a community, what we're really saying is a community of people that you can be really vulnerable and real with.
Yeah.
Community where you can express your fails and have them hold you and support you.
and not try to fix you.
Yeah.
That's another big thing. In fact, we might be doing a podcast episode on this, but the propensity that when someone's having a bad day, we immediately rush in to fix them.
Yeah.
Which is not a helpful energy.
Totally. All right. Well, I think it's time to bring Jess on. What do you think?
I think we should do it. But before we do that, speaking of community, if you feel called to join the Amplified Woman, remember there's just a few days left. You can go to the amplifycollective.com/incubator. If you don't feel called to join the Amplified Woman, but you still would like community, you can join us on our Facebook group at beamplified.community. That is the entire URL address, beamplified.community.
Yes, we would love to see you there.
Yes, we would.
All right, let's bring on Jess. All right, we are here with our beautiful dear friend, Jess Nazarali. She comes all the way from Australia to share her brilliance with you all. We're just so excited. So excited to have her on our podcast. Hi, Jess.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be here. I feel like we're all back together in LA, only virtually.
I know. I love it. I love it.
Well, before we get going too much, I'll let our listeners know a little bit about you. So, entrepreneur, certified master coach, It Girl Academy founder, and host of It Girl Radio, Jessica Nazarali knew from an early age that personal development would be part of her life's work. But it wasn't until she started a passion project, a blog, and health food website in 2011 that Jessica's dream came to fruition. Today, Jessica merges business with her desire to help people through the courses she releases through It Girl Academy. She is passionate about helping women to use the evergreen model for enrolling consistent clients without having to do big, stressful launches.
That's amazing. So, Jess, the way we like to start all of our interviews is by asking you, what does it look like for you to live an amplified life?
So for me, living an amplified life really means doing what I love to do on a day-to-day basis. And I think as a society and as a culture, we're really ingrained that we got to go to college or university, and then after university, we're going to get a job, and then we're going to work really hard, and then we're going to get a promotion, and then we're going to marry the guy. And then I feel like in so many ways, we just have our life laid out for us unless we really make the decision to do life differently. And so just like you ladies have done through starting my own business, it's given me so many great opportunities to live a life outside of the box. And I think that's what living an amplified life is. It's like doing life your way, living life which is really true to you. And I mean, it's incredible. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about helping other, men and women to be able to live this type of life as well. Because I think just waking up day after day, doing what is expected of you is just, so boring, and it's not going to change the world in any way. Yes. And I think now more than ever, that's what we need. We need change to be happening.
So talk to us a little bit more about what this looks like specifically to you, because I know that you and your husband are from, reside in Australia, but you haven't been there in a long time. So what does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
So for about a period of 18 months, from May 2015 to, it was
November
2016, so just a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I were location independent, and we made the decision that we would live in different locations just to really experience life to the fullest, to meet different people, to have awarenesses of what's going on in different countries and different cities and different cultures. Because I think it's so easy. I think especially if you live somewhere like Australia, because it's beautiful. It's just very far away from the rest of the world. So you can kind of be a little bit disconnected, and you may not realize what's going on. And I think traveling is just such a great way to understand different cultures. And through understanding, you see people's, different perspectives and different ways of living. And I think that builds a lot of tolerance. So, that is one way that I've definitely lived an amplified life over the past 18 months. But now I am back in Australia, and the intention is to be based here for the next few years anyway. I'm sure I'll go on trips here and there. But, on a day-to-day basis, right now it's about, just thinking, okay, well, what is the work that I really want to create? And, how is it best going to serve my audience? And how can I, create great content for my podcast that's really going to help people? And just, really coming from, that place now that I have, the understandings and I guess different perspectives from, traveling and meeting different cultures. And I think that really comes through in my programs. My last program, my audience used to be majority US based, in my the people who took my programs. But, the last program, I had people from like Latvia and Mexico and where else? Malaysia. So, really building that, I guess that multicultural community is really important to me.
I love that so much. So let's talk a little bit about creating structure while you didn't have any structure. Because I feel like a lot of women kind of stress out when they go on vacation and they don't work out every day the way they usually do, and they don't eat the same foods, and they feel like they have to impose these really rigid structures upon themselves to like make sure that they're in this perfect regimen. And because you were abroad for so long, how did you find, what was that balance like for you? Like, how did you find some sense of routine while being open to the new experience?
So I think the key, if anyone wants to travel and still like build their business, is to create consistency wherever you are. And so to do that, I recommend that you stay in places for like a minimum of 2 weeks. So you have an opportunity to get settled and like create your new routine wherever it is that you're staying. I think, and I hear this a lot as well. Like women are like, oh, I need to sit at my desk and I need to have this certain juice to start the day. And I need to do like 5 sun salutations in order to be able to start. And, and I'm really grateful that I had the experience of like traveling and not having that, because it forces you to be flexible. And I think today I'm so much more adaptable, and I'm now so grateful that I have a desk that I go to every day, and like everything's, where it was left the day before. I'm not like having to set everything up when I move to a new location. So I've become a lot more flexible and adaptable because I essentially, I needed to be. And I think it's good for, a short period of time. So I think if anyone wants to, do something like this, and like travel and be on the road and start a business or grow your business, I think it's just important to remind yourself of the fact that you're only doing it for a certain period of time. So for me, I whenever I would start freaking out, I would say, okay, you've consciously chosen this. Enjoy the moment. There's going to be a time where you won't be doing this, and you're probably going to look back and say, oh, I wish I was in LA, or I wish, I was in Mexico, and I would regret that I didn't enjoy it to the fullest. So I would always remind myself that this is it's temporary. It's not always going to be like this, and just make the most of the situation. And yes, there's going to be things that aren't ideal, but it's not the worst thing to be experiencing, like traveling and seeing the world and growing your business.
So, have
Yeah.
there been any major like culture shock moments now that you're not like traveling the world, now that you're kind of back in one spot for an extended period of time?
I'm really glad to be back. Like by the end of it, I was still enjoying it, but I was just well and truly ready to be in one place. And so I'm like, now I feel like I'm just at the stage of my life where I'm more than happy to, be in one location for an extended period of time. I haven't actually really shared this anywhere, but I'm actually pregnant.
Jess! That's
Congratulations!
so exciting! I know that we talked about the possibility of it. Oh my goodness, that is so exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm very grateful that, we've had all these traveling experiences, and now we're just moving into a different phase where
Yeah.
more grounded,
Aw,
have a home base, a foundation. Yeah.
beautiful.
And I love your conversation about flexibility and adaptability because
Mhm.
I've seen how important that is in entrepreneurialism, especially with the changing technology, the changing platforms. And so I'm curious, like, how has being more flexible and being more adaptable, how has that helped you on the more practical level?
Mm-hmm. So I think can be so easy for us to get caught up when things go wrong, right? Something can happen and for me anyway, I know in the past, something relatively small in the grand scheme of things will happen and I will completely freak out. I'll think like it's, life or death. And because I've had to be, so much more flexible because, sometimes you do turn up somewhere and the internet isn't as great. Or, you know, time like the plane's delayed. So then, there's been times where I've been talking to my team in a taxi as opposed to in a hotel. But I used to kind of get worked up about all these things and be like, well, things have to be done a certain way. And now I have a saying that if it's not going to matter in 20 years, it's really not worth getting upset about it.
Mm.
Because for me anyway, I'll get upset about something and then I'll be upset for 2 hours. And then it kind of, I'm not as productive in those 2 hours that I would have been if I was in a more positive state. And it just, it has a negative effect on the rest of my day. And so most things aren't going to matter in 20 years. They're just not. Like a simple, to give you a really practical example, there was a time somewhat recently that an email went out to the wrong group of people on my list. And I was like, oh my God, how did that, that's such a stupid mistake. I specifically said who that email was meant to go to. It was just meant to go to past clients, but it went to my whole list.
Mm.
And I was like, that's not meant to happen. My whole list has been getting a lot of things lately. Anyway, I started kind of spiraling, and then I was like, look, what does it really matter? At the end of the day, in 20 years time, I'm not going to be thinking about, wow, that email went to the wrong group of people. Obviously you can put systems and processes in place to stop that from happening. And I spoke to the person and we worked out what went wrong in the scheduling of it. But, at the end of the day, are you going to let something like that, really affect you? And I'm trying for the most part to not I'm human, but it's something I'm really working on is keeping my stress levels low and not reacting to things that I can't change.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and Hal talks about how he allows himself to be upset about something for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then he can't be upset about it anymore. He either has to do something about it, or if he can't do something about it, he has to move on from it. And I love that idea that if it's not going to matter in 20 years and if you can't control it anyways, then spending time worrying about it is basically a waste of your energy.
Yes.
So I love that idea.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you more about, in your bio, you specifically talked about, telling your clients not to do launches. And I think this is really fascinating because Thais and I are both very kind of anti-conventional business people. And in our industry, everyone is all about the launches. And you have to stress out and have all these huge things and the webinars and the funnels and the thises and the that. And I want to hear more about why you don't recommend launches.
Well, it's not necessarily that I don't recommend launches. I do, 1 to 2 kind of big public launches a year, but I don't recommend that you're constantly launching. And what I mean by that is, I have a colleague this year who's, quite well known, and she has done 5 public launches. And what I mean by that is she's emailed her whole list. She's been running Facebook ads, just kind of going all out, 5 times a year. And it's the end of the year and she's exhausted. She's just I can't be doing that next year. That just took way too much, a huge toll on my health and happiness and sanity. So what I recommend is implementing what I call the evergreen model. And that is my system that I created, which essentially means that you are consistently enrolling customers and clients into your programs on a rolling basis. So everyone, I'll kind of talk you through the process. So for example, if you opted into a lead magnet today, you would get the lead magnet, and then you'd be put into a sales funnel, which is promoting a product or service or potentially discovery session. And then at the end of that funnel, the person either buys a program or books in for a discovery session, and then they join the product, program, or service. Now, if Sally opts in 2 days later, she'll start the funnel and she'll go through it in her own timing. So she'll always be, 2 days later than the person who opted in 2 days before. And so using this model, people are constantly joining your programs and, booking in discovery calls and deciding to work with you, but it's not all happening at the same time. So I think what's really stressful about launches is that, there's a start date, there's an end date, and everyone's starting the program at the same time. So it's like, oh my gosh, I need to hit my numbers by this certain date. If I don't, it could mean that, you're going to have to take on more one-on-one clients so you can hit your income goals, so you can, afford to cover your expenses. It could mean, if you don't hit your numbers, then you have to fulfill a program which has like 5 people in it when you really wanted to have 20 people in it. But with rolling enrollment, the idea is, Sally could join this week, Jane could join the following week, and they just all go through the program in their own individual timings. And you can still have Q&A calls, but instead of having a group call where you're saying, okay, we're going to talk about module 1, you hop on the call, and what I do is I just answer people's questions, and it could be related to any of the modules, depending on where they are. And I find that still works, really beautifully, because, there are going to be some people who are more advanced, some people are just starting. So the beginners are going to learn from the people who are more advanced. The advanced people get to kind of demonstrate how much they know by helping the beginners as well. So I have found it works really beautifully. And this has been my model for enrolling people into my group programs for almost 2 years now. And it just works really well to have that consistent income as well. A lot of people, they have a big launch, they bring in a whole bunch of money, but then they're kind of exhausted. They got to fulfill the program. Then you really need to start prepping for a launch like 3 months ahead. And yeah, it's just kind of like I feel like you're on this constant cycle.
Yeah.
Whether if you have using the evergreen model, it's, you are consistently working, but there's no peaks and troughs. It's, it's just that consistency, which I personally, really enjoy.
Yeah. It's more of like a plateau as opposed to like a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how did you
Yes.
develop this model? Like what stemmed from your personal experience
Yes.
where this felt so applicable for you?
Well, I in 2014, I just worked one-on-one with clients, and it was an amazing experience. But I got to the end of 2014 and was like, oh my gosh, I really need another way of working with clients so I can scale my business, because I had like 20 one-on-one clients. I was just totally fully booked, and I knew something had to change. So I was working with a coach, and she was like, okay, launch a group program. So I launched the group program, and I had all these like fears and stresses that comes from launching a group program. And I was like, oh my God, what if I don't hit my numbers? What if, hardly anyone enrolls, and then I have to like fulfill this program? I'd never worked with a bunch of people before. So I was like, oh my gosh, what if I have like 50 people in this program, and I can't handle working with this big group of people at once, like 50 people, 50 beginners starting something new. That kind of freaked me out as well, like working with them all, at the same time from the beginning. But anyway, I launched the program, and it was a success. It was a 6-figure launch. But afterwards, I just really stepped back, and I went, there has to be a better way of doing things. I didn't like the idea of kind of going away and then saying, okay, I'm going to prep for my next launch, and it's going to be, like double the size of this one. And I don't know, I didn't like being on that constant roller coaster of planning a launch, launching, recovering, planning a launch, launching, recovering. And I could just see like that's what my life was going to be like. And that's when I started looking into, evergreen programs and rolling programs. And it's something, if your listeners know Mind Valley, all their courses are on evergreen. They may do one public launch once a year of a specific program, but then the background, it's all running on evergreen. And, Neil Patel, like he is, a genius when it comes to content marketing. All his programs are on evergreen as well. And I asked them about this and they said, well, you make more money and it's less stressful. Like, it's about constantly improving your open rates, your funnels, your emails, your webinars. Like you're constantly improving, and it's not like you have this hit or miss. You've got this one window, and if it works, great. If not, well, you can give it a go in another 3 months or 6 months. It's like you can constantly tweak and you can constantly improve. And I find for me, because I have that, when I do like a launch, once or twice a year, I don't have that pressure on myself because I know, okay, after this is done, the program's going to go in evergreen anyway. And so for me, maybe I'm just not good under pressure, but I find it's then so much easier to have a less stressful launch because I know, the sake of my business isn't just relying on this one launch. And I know for a lot of people when they're launching, it can really feel like that. It's like, okay, this is like make or break. If this doesn't go well, like I don't know what I'm going to do for the next, 3 or 6 months.
Yeah, I love this, Jess. And I love how, first we talked about you traveling and then we're talking about launches. And to many people, it may seem like two different subjects. But to me, I see it as one amazing woman who's deciding to do it her own way. And I think that is so amazing that you're creating your own rules. You're launching things in a different way. You're traveling in a way that most people would never be able to dream of doing for themselves. And I'm curious, like, where did you get the guts to do all this? Like, where in your history did you decide, fuck what everyone else is doing, I've got to figure out how to do it my way?
Wow, that's a really loaded question. I need to give a really good response. I think I've always had like a very unconventional. I had an unconventional life. I went to a Steiner school. If you guys know what that is, it's like an alternative form of schooling. It's kind of very
no.
it's like very creative and like arts and drama. So I feel like I went to that school. I went to a Steiner school. So I felt like I was always, I guess, different in that respect as well. My parents are kind of, I joke and say they're closet hippies. I mean, from the outside, they look totally normal, but like I grew up going to like meditation circles and I became a Reiki master when I was 11.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I look back now and I really appreciate it. Like, I think when I was a teenager, I was like, I really don't appreciate this at all. But I think because I have always been a little bit of an outsider or just different from the norm, I've felt okay kind of taking some of these risks. And I mean, in relation to the evergreen model, like I had colleagues and also mentors tell me that it was a bad idea. But it's, I think, we all need to be able to trust whether something is right for us or not. And I knew that I needed to give like the evergreen model a go and like really test it out. And I think when we follow our intuition and don't get, I guess caught off guard or distracted by what other people can say, amazing things really can happen. And I wouldn't have been able to do all the travel that I've done if I was launching. Yeah. Like I mean, it's impossible. Like that would be just totally crazy. So I'm grateful that I found it because it did give me, that freedom to be able to travel and explore. And I mean, now it's going to give me the freedom to be able to have a baby and, not being like, okay, well, I'm prepping for a launch this 3 months and it's going to be really hectic and crazy. It's like, no, it will just be, it's going to be it's going to be consistent. And that is, what I really desire, not the roller coaster.
Awesome. Yeah, Thais and I had a similar thing. We actually had a mentor tell us that Amplify was a terrible idea and we should never do it. And so kudos to those of us that buck the trends and don't listen to the advice. But
yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of women wait around for permission. Like they wait around for someone to say, like, yes, now's the time, you should go take this leap. And so when you encounter women like that, because clearly, like, we're ladies that don't wait for permission. What do you have any advice to someone that is waiting for their fairy godmother to come wave the wand and give them that?
I mean, I think there's definitely been times in my life where I've been like waiting for a sign, or like waiting for something external or someone external to be like, yeah, that's a good idea, you should go for it. And, now I've just really come to terms that, we have to be our own number one cheerleader. Like we have to be our own knight in shining armor who's going to, save us from ourselves. And I think it's important just to always, think about the vision that you want for your life and realize that if you don't start taking actions towards it, like nothing is going to change. Like if I didn't, book that plane ticket, like I was really scared when we like put our stuff in storage and, just had a suitcase each and then left. I was like, oh my God, like, is this ridiculous? What am I getting myself into? Like I had that whole story playing, but if I hadn't have gone, I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have met, so many incredible people. That's, really been a blessing, both personally and professionally. So I think it's about, fear, like feeling, the fear, or like feeling the self-doubt, and then realizing that if you don't do something about it, then, your life isn't going to change and you're not going to get the breakthrough or the results or the business that you truly want. So this is your permission. I'm giving you your permission.
I love it.
I love that.
Go and do what it is that you want to do.
Well, and it's so true that the world isn't going to be changed if you don't do anything different, right? Like nothing is going to change if you don't do anything differently. It's going to stay the same. And so if you want to see different results, if you want to see a different level of happiness, my mentor, he goes, people, they call bliss just a little less pain. And we could be experiencing no pain. We could be experiencing some stuff that's so great and so joyous that we can't even imagine it if we just take the first steps and say yes to something new.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this conversation so much, Jess. So for people who are interested in learning more about you, learning more about your evergreen launching process, like where can they find out more?
Sure. So they can go to jessicanazarali.com. They can also go to jessicanazarali.com/webinar. I have a training on the evergreen model, so you can kind of understand what that's all about and how it can work and how it works, and if it would be a good fit for your business model. And you can find me on social media. I'm on all the major platforms. It would be awesome to connect with you there.
Amazing. Yeah. And we'll put all of that in the show notes for you guys. So you can just go to our website, theamplifycollective.com, and you will find everything about Jess there.
And as usual, you can find us on all the socials at The Amplify Co. And don't forget to join our private Facebook group, beamplified.community, to not only engage and interact with all the other people listening to the podcast, but also we have a super secret extra interview with Jess that we'll be launching on there as well. So she'll be answering a few extra questions just for our community, and you can catch the extended version of her interview at beamplified.community.
Go have an amplified life, people. Go do it.
See you next week.